Crazy story coming out in the world of college basketball, as it appears the George Mason men's basketball team just got scammed out of a Bahamas trip. Foreign tours are fairly common in the college basketball offseason, where a program will go to Europe or Canada or the Bahamas, play some games, get some team bonding in before the season starts. George Mason's trip to the Bahamas was supposed to start today, but it got canceled at the last minute, and now it's not going to happen at all. Trilly Donovan, everyone's favorite anonymous college basketball insider, had the details on this first, so shout out to him. According to Trilly Donovan, the George Mason basketball team was supposed to leave for the Bahamas today. They get to the airport only to find out that no flights have been booked, no hotels have been booked, and no games are happening. The whole trip was canceled, and to make matters worse, some donors for George Mason had already arrived in the Bahamas by the time they found out. Apparently, George Mason hired this foreign tour operator, the VII Group, to handle all the details of their trip, and the VII Group did not follow through. The VII Group has been in operation for a while and most recently handled successful trips to the Bahamas for Georgia and Tulane. I believe they also run the Holiday Hoops Giving event, but when it came to George Mason's trip, they really dropped the ball. Now, it's not like George Mason just decided they wanted to go to the Bahamas yesterday. This is something that's been on their calendar for months that they were paying the VII Group to handle all the details for them to get to the airport on the day of the trip and find out that there are no flights, no hotels, no games happening is wild. The VII Group released a statement expressing regret and sincere apologies that George Mason's trip was canceled, saying they take full accountability for the failure. They recognize the impact on the student athletes and the disappointment caused to families, boosters, donors, everybody involved. For what it's worth, I ran the VII Group's full statement through an AI detector, and it came back as almost exclusively AI generated. I actually ran it through a couple different detectors because I'm not quite sure how accurate any of them are, but the results were pretty much the same across the board. You can take that with a grain of salt if you want to, if you don't really buy into the validity of these, but funny if true. The latest update to the story is Chris Williams, the organizer of George Mason's trip, told the Field of 68 that he takes full responsibility for the cancellation. He said the company he outsourced the flights to never booked them, but the hotels and games were booked and scheduled and had to later be canceled. He also denied the report that George Mason got to the airport before finding out that the flights hadn't been booked. Quite a bit of outsourcing going on here. George Mason outsources it to Chris Williams, who then outsources it to some other company. Clearly that didn't work out. Also, pretty funny, takes full responsibility for the cancellation of the trip before immediately shifting the blame to somebody else. Further details of the story are still coming out, but pretty wild that we got Firefest 2.0 in the world of college basketball.